What is up, my beautiful D-Day fam? And it's your boy Brendan, aka Drip, back with another deck profile, and a beautiful deck profile at that. I have been wanting to bring you guys an updated list for a while now, and I apologize that it's taken me forever to do so. I just wanted to get some of the cards that I needed in order to do so. I recently found some sauce. I'm not the founder of this sauce like I was with the Astro. I found out that some other people were splashing this in their deck. Didn't see nothing online because normally I don't really take that much from other people's lists. I don't even really look at other people's lists. But some people in the Discord were talking about this, and so ever since I found this, this card is never leaving the deck. Before we get into all that and stuff, if y'all want, if you could please hit the like button if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button if you have not already as well, hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload, and go check out the merch, bro. What are you doing? Y'all are slacking. Go get some DDD merch down in the description below. All right, back to the profile. One thing I will say real quickly is if you're just wanting a list and you don't want to hear me talk, it's probably the wrong place for you, because I'm going to go in detail and it's probably going to be a longer video, which if you're around here for a while, you know my videos are kind of remotely a little bit longer than others. But I am going to be going in depth about why I chose what I chose, would I run something different, along with the fact that most of the cards in here are meta call, basically, when it comes to the hand trap / go second cards. But also my choices on these cards. If you don't already know, myself personally, when I build this list, or when I build any deck for that matter, I like to try to keep it as tight as possible. But with Galaxy Eyes, I try to overachieve in that. What I mean by keep it tight and snug is name based or attribute based. This deck, if you haven't seen my video already, I've made a video and I go in more detail about how I build my Galaxy Eyes decks and what my thought process is. I'm not going to get into too much detail on that here, but if you want to go check that out, I'll probably put the video in the description down below. You can go check that out. It's another long video. I literally take my brain and pour it onto the video for you guys on my thought process, what goes through my mind when I build this deck. But again, everything I like to keep this attribute and name based for that matter, because that's where the deck's most consistency comes from. But also, if you know too, whenever I build any deck for that matter, it's mainly a meta call, not really overall utility. There could be some better utility cards for the deck that are in archetype, but you have to go by what is predominantly being played and be able to counter that deck for the most part. But with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get into this list. A lot of it, for the most part, is going to be kind of standard, but it's my own little version of it. Starting it out, we got three Ghosty Boys, because we got to haunt our opponent's dreams with them, because the Galaxy Photon Dragon too strong. You need 3. Obviously, never play less than 3. My boy 3 Stack said it best one time. I said it my last video. Hand, deck, graveyard. That's the ratios for these guys. And ever since he told me that way back when, well, not just me, but he told everybody that, that's basically, I've been stuck on that forever. And that's another reason why if you play less than 3, you're just playing the deck wrong. I'm sorry. Next, we got 3 of the best searcher in the deck. 3 Soldier. Not much need to be explained on this. 3 Soldier is mandatory. He searches half of your deck, because this deck is split between Photons and Galaxies. This searches basically your half of your deck, and it literally gets you the fastest way to Lord faster than any other card, really. Moving on, we got 2 Afterglow. You don't need less, you don't need more. If you run 3, you're going to brick, I promise. If you run 1, you're going to miss the second one, guaranteed, because there's a lot of situations where you need kind of like the Photon Dragon, you need 1 in hand, you need 1 in deck, basically, with this. Instead, you don't need 1 in grave, because the reason why you need 1 of these in grave is because Photon Dragons in grave is because of night. So basically, if you think about it, when it comes to Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon, hand, grave, and deck, for those ratios, because you need 1 in hand for the Soul Flare, you need 1 in deck for Expedition or anything like that, and then you need 1 in grave for the night. And then when it comes to Afterglows, you need one in hand for the special summon, and then you need one in deck for the Galaxy Eyes Trance, basically. You don't really need one in grave. So like hand and deck is where you need these, because hand you can special, and then deck you just go and get it off of Trance and then OTK with Prime, because Prime is goated. Moving on, well, we got 2 Knight. My outlook on Knight is this card will never probably drop to 1 unless something else better comes along. The reason why I tried running this card at 1 and it comes up too much, if you haven't seen, you'll learn in my video where I dump my brain basically out about this deck, is if I run 1, because I have tried to trim it down to 1 before. If you trim it down to 1, but yet you had a way to search the second one in your hand, and you had your only one in grave, there's usually 90% of the time there's going to be something more important to add back from grave than Knight, but you don't want to put yourself in an awkward situation where you have to add this back from grave just in order to make a level 8, where if you could literally have a different way to search the second copy in deck, and you could have added something better back from grave that could have made you plus even harder. Like, for an example, if you had like Vanisher in grave, and you could have special Vanisher and got hand advantage off of Vanisher Search and Photon Dragon, instead of having to get this to search, get this in normal summon to make it rank 8. So basically, you could have still made a rank 8, but also regained hand advantage, because Yu-Gi-Oh relies on card advantage / hand advantage too, along with outgrinding / resourcing your opponents. So I never wanted to put myself in a situation where I was forced to get this back from grave, because once this deck gets rolling, that's where you're mainly going to be running from, is hand deck graveyard basically. And that I didn't want to put myself in a bind like that. On top of that, it also is a trade-in target too. Also, you'll find yourself in certain situations where you have to use this as a trade-in target, or this actually has to be a soldier target, and then you don't want, same as I said before, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you have to add this back to grave unless you want it back from grave. That's my outlook on that. Moving on to the rest of the Galaxy cards. I run 2 Brave because we run a bigger Photon line. We run a same size Photon lineup, I believe, as my previous list. If you have yet to watch the video, like I said before, a lot of my reasonings on this and my list come from that video. So if you have any questions at all, probably 95% of them will be answered in that video. So go check that out before you get heated at me and angry at me and you go into the comments. But 2 Brave because usually when it comes to Brave and Wizard, their ratios, which, fun fact, I'll go ahead and put that down here. We run 2 and 1. Usually the ratios of these, like I said in my video that you probably will, if you haven't watched already, you will go watch. The ratios of these rotate back and forth depending on my Photon lineup. If I'm running a bigger Photon lineup, I'll run 2 Brave. If I'm running a less Photon lineup, I'll run 2 Wizard and 1 Brave, basically. These ratios apply each other by each other, basically. So my ratios for Wizard will come from Brave. My Brave's ratios will come from Wizard, which obviously floats from the Photons, basically, too. And then the card that will never leave my deck is Cleric. This card is disgusting. This card does so much for us. This card single-handedly has won me games because it regains hand advantage along with recycling your cards and like making you stay in the grind game, basically. I literally searched this card, used this card, shuffled my stuff back, drew 2, and just won because of the draw 2 along with recycling. That's how we outgrind our opponents. This is how we keep looping our stuff. We can basically reset the board along with resetting our deck and just keep going, moving in a circle, basically, just looping our stuff. She is phenomenal, and she'll never leave my deck, honestly, never. I can honestly say that about Cleric because the deck is so good in the grind once you get your engine rolling. That's it for the Galaxy part of the deck. Galaxy monsters, that is. On to the Photons. We got 3 Orbital. That's pretty standard for that part. Like, you need this to search basically anything. I know a lot of people are going to be kind of heated about this, but I run 2 Vanisher. You never want to see too many of this card. Ever since I dropped it to 2, it's been okay. There are certain situations where I would like to see in my hand more, but not enough for me to run 3 and put brick on it. It's like when I run it at 2 sometimes, I don't see it enough, but when I run it at 3, I see it way too much, and in bigger numbers too. So I would rather run it at 2 and see it when I see it than run it at 3 and see multiple in my hand, because this deck kind of struggles with its consistency like that if you run too many numbers. And 2 has worked out perfectly for me since I've had it there. I run 1 advancer for the name, and in 1 thrasher. I promise you, you do not need another thrasher, because we run Rhoda and you can easily get to this whenever you want, and this card's dead after turn 1 anyways. Yes, you can try to make the argument, but I will not agree with you that it can, worst case scenario, be discarded off of Soldier. I mean, not Soldier, but Knight. Yeah, Soldier, sorry. So be discarded off Soldier. But at that point, there is better cards to discard off of Soldier than Thrasher that you would plus more off of, which, again, in that video, you'll hear all of that. So this Photon lineup has actually been perfect for me. I don't see myself changing it unless, like I said, the Wizard becomes more important, basically, which different formats, it usually can. On to the generic extenders / hand traps. For my generic extenders, like I said, some of y'all probably gonna be mad about this, but the only 2 generic extenders I got is Astral Karibo. This is the one that I talked about and I praised really highly in my previous video right after this first came out. I don't run the Guardian of Order anymore because it's too situational, and you want to cut down on situational cards. This card is always live. And the lock where it locks you into number XZ monsters does not matter at all, because you're going to be making those regardless, and then you'll be able, because you want to get to the Lord first, and then you usually go into Soul Flavor, because you always want to protect yourself from Nib or protect yourself from other hand traps if need be. On top of that, he's a target for something else that we run in the deck that I'll get to later, and he plays a big part in that because he's just generic when it comes to that, and he fills a lot of the categories that we need for the card. But that's actually it for the extenders. Onto the monster hand traps. Monster hand traps, we run 2 Lancia. That's it. These were actually Ghost Ogres until the last minute of like coming to this video after I was play testing. I decided to opt for the Lancia for many reasons. I mean, obviously, Ogre fills the same void because it's a light monster. But like I said before, that it's a meta call. Both Ogre and this hits meta decks and rogue decks. I'm not denying that. But I wanted, if I'm going to have a card, I want it to be more impactful, if that makes sense. So yes, they both hit pretty much the same decks, but this one would be more impactful than Ogre. This one completely stops the Brave PK. Like, you shotgun this, you can basically win if they're not running Gamma. Along with this hits Virtual World, which, even though if I were you, I wouldn't shotgun this because they run Gamma. Wait until they summon a card and then use this. This hits Dinos if you have Dinos at your locals. This hits basically a lot of decks. And even if in worst case scenario, if you draw it or whatever, you can just discard it off of Soldier because it's a light. Hence why, like I said before, you want to keep everything attribute based if you can, and name based. But that's this. I can go on and on about all the different decks that this card hits and how much it helps and is more impactful than Ogre, but it'll be a really, really long video compared to how long it normally is anyways. Now on to the spell cards where it gets really hot. We got 3 Sanctuary. Sanctuary is Sanctuary. It's 1 card in starter, basically. 3 Droplet. I'm on to the 3 Droplet now. I got a 3rd one finally. So my outlook on this, hear me out. I know Droplet is expensive. If you can't afford Droplets, run Chalice, not Dark Ruler. You need the ability to have quick plays because you need to stop the Scythe Lock if all is possible. The Scythe Lock is like, obviously to a lot of decks, it just kills you basically, and this is being a quick play just makes it all the reason why you need to run it. I opt to run Droplet for 2 reasons. 3 reasons. 1, I have them. 2, they can't chain to whatever you send, and that part comes up so freaking much that it is ridiculous. The stopping them from being able to chain to your card just helps you stop them and play through their board. And 3, it discards. The faster I can get a copy of Photon Dragon Engrave, the better off I am, because that sets me a step ahead than I would normally be. With, like, if I draw this for turn and they just try to scythe lock me and I chain this to send Photon Dragon or whatever else and then turn off their stuff. So not only did I plus by turning off their DPE plus another kind of interruption, I also plussed by putting Photon Dragon Engrave ahead of time before I even started my combo yet. So I'm already a step ahead, along with potentially shutting down their board and attempting to play through it and break it, if that makes sense. So that's another reason why I opt to run Droplet over Chalice. But Chalice is better than Dark Ruler this format because it's a quick play. So if you can't afford these, run Chalice. Also, if you wanted to run 2 Chalice, you could get away with that, because on this list I am not running talents, triple tactic talent. But if you are wanting to run 2 Chalice, run the 1 talent, because hand traps are everywhere now this format. They went from being nowhere to everywhere. So run 2 Chalice and 1 2 Chalice and 1 talent. If you don't have access to talent, it's still out of your budget, then just run 3 Chalice. That's all I gotta say. Moving on to the draw power. We only run 2 trade-in. 3's too many, because you don't know how many times I've used trade-in and drew into trade-in when I had it at 3. This is basically like standard for that most part. It's obviously it's free basically. It gets Photon Dragon Engrave. It draws 2. And now this next card is like really busted, and it's the card that I was talking about. This next card makes our entire deck, monster-wise, and our side deck, because I am going to show you all a side deck, searchable. You can search every single card now, and it is better than Union Carrier, and that is Small World. I know this is not a budget card, because it's kind of like, it's like $30 right now. But this card is so necessary in this deck, and it's necessary in a lot of decks. I'm not just saying it's really good in this deck. This card is just overall stupid, because it's literally a reinforcements of the army for every deck out there right now. Like, almost any deck can use this card. This card is just really stupid. I can explain. If you don't know what this card does, I can read it to you. It's very confusing, so like bear with me, okay? It says, reveal 1 monster from your hand. Choose 1 monster from your deck that has exactly the same type, attribute, level, attack, or defense, and banish the revealed monster face down. Then add a monster from your deck to your hand that has exactly the same type, attribute, level, attack, or defense from the monster chosen from the deck, and banish the card face down. And you can only activate 1 Small World once per turn. So basically, on paper it sounds like you go -1, but you really don't, because it doesn't banish for cost. So you can just activate this, and then if they don't ask you there, then you're good. You can just continue to go off. And so basically, the way it helped me to learn this card, because if you try to read it, it's very confusing. So how it helped me is think of it backwards, and it only has to meet one of the requirements. And the 1 card in hand doesn't matter. The card in hand doesn't matter. It only matters about the card that you're revealing from your deck. So basically, let's say I wanted to search, like I said before, I searched the Cleric. It helped me. So what you do is you can reveal any card from hand. It don't matter, really. And that's where I said Karibo comes up clutch, because whatever you search, it can only have 1 of the same things. It can't have 2. So if it has the same type, like they're both spellcasters and light, you can't do it. It has to meet only 1 of the same. So this is where if you're trying to deck thin too, Karibo comes into play, because guess what? If I want to search Cleric is a level 4 spellcaster with 1500 attack, 600 defense. They don't share the same attack or defense. They don't share the same type. She's a spellcaster, he's a fiend, or the same level. The only thing they share is the attribute. And that's what is really nice. So, which we'll get to more into that as we get there. But I was basically wanting to try to narrow that down for you to understand. And if you need more explanation on it, just ask me, I'll let you know. And now, onto the Power 1-ofs. This is going to trigger a lot of you all, and I'm sorry, but I did it in my last list, and ever since I've done this, my deck has actually kind of gotten more consistent for me. And I know that sounds crazy. We only run one Expedition. That's all you need. If you're running, like, if you're running, like, more Photons and Galaxies, basically, you could potentially bump this up at 2, but every time I have this card at 2, I see too many of it. Literally, I draw both of them a lot. And then we got the OTK enabler, Trance. The 0 for the Reborn to bring back our XZs and overlay on top of them, just push for game. I did put Hyper Galaxy back in here because DPE is everywhere and it's 2500 plus. So you can basically just out there DP with this after you bait it. And we run a side deck card that is searchable through Small World that enables this card, which we will get that when we get there. And then I did opt to put Galaxy Cyclone in the main because Skill Drain is everywhere too. Granted, I know this has to pop a face down first in order to be able to banish it the next turn. So it is a little bit slower than Cosmic, and it's a little bit slower than Twin. But I'll explain why I don't main deck those like Twin or Cosmic. Obviously, because it's a Galaxy, so it's searchable off of Photon Lord. So if you're playing against a back row deck and you didn't draw in your side deck cards, or you're just going first and you know what you're playing against, you can just search this to have an interruption to at least get rid of one of their cards. But I'll get the reason why I actually don't have Twin in the side deck, just fun fact, and I'll explain that when we get there. And then the last card in the actual deck is Reinforcements of the Army. I forgot to put it in my deck before I did the deck profile, but you definitely need Rhoda. The ratio between 2 Small World and 1 Rhoda is actually really nice. I was going to opt to run 3 Small World and no Rhoda, but Jeremy talked me into running the 1 Rhoda, and ever since I was playtesting with it, it's actually really nice because comes a time where you actually draw a Small World and a Rhoda, but not very many monsters. And since I said this deck relies on monsters and spells as consistency, if you were to see double Small World, it's going to kind of suck. But if you see a Small World plus a Rhoda, but not very many monsters, the Rhoda will get you the monsters. And then the Small World, you can either hold the Small World or the Rhoda would have got you the monster that you needed to begin with. And then the Small World you can hold it or just use it to help get your engine started. And it works where they actually feed off of one another. So it's really nice. Moving on to the extra deck, we got 2 Soul Flare. Soul Flare is Soul Flare. It's self-explanatory. It's really the best link and the only link we got. We got 1 Ashima because it's busted and enables us to get to our rank 8s. On top of that, if you know you're kind of playing into Nib, you can go into this to make your rank 8, and her effect to special summon and XZ is all one effect, so they can't nib you on the summons from grave and hand. It's too late. It's too late at that point because you can go into this, summon, and then overlay. There's no effect in between that like starts a chain or whatever, so they can't nib you. So if you're, like I said before, if you're afraid you're playing into nib, just go into this, and if they have no response to this effect, then you're Gucci. You don't have to worry about getting nibbed or anything because the summon, then overlay all counts for 1 summon, basically, if that makes sense, /1 effect. That's it for the links. On to the XZs. We got 2 Lord. You don't need more than that. You'll end up recycling the other one. Basically, you only really need 1 for the combo, and then you need another one for the grind game, plus to get into your big monsters because you'll have to overlay in this and then overlay those on top of this because you just need to sometimes. We got then my favorite one in the next deck because I just love the artwork. We got full armor. Full armor is full armor. Then we got the Cypher Blade. So we got the monster negates. We got the pop, and then I did add the Cypher package back in. The Cypher Dragon and the Cypher X. I cut the Double or Nothing package because you just need to minimize on bricks, and there's too much control kind of sort of going around this format. On top of that, obviously you got Scythe Lock. So the OTK build with I had last format with the Double or Nothing and the Utopia is still kind of good, but like I said, every card will float in and out of formats. Then we got the 138 for the generic spell removal and like stops, and it's just, it's 38. Not much explanatory there. Sorry about that. Infinity and Nova. sometimes you'll get weird hands, and you can only interruption you can really get to is Infinity Nova, and sometimes it just does enough. One Mr. OTK himself. Prime is prime. What's really nice is making a prime, and then if you had to, putting a Astral Karibo underneath it, because then if you don't know Astral Karibo, whatever is attached to this, if like Karibo's attached to this, it can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects. So he can be really big and can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects. I know some people asked me in my previous video. I'm going to go ahead and say it now. So if you don't know, if you were to overlay like Prime, or I mean not Prime, but Full Armor or something over this, whatever you make with Astral Karibo, that effect does not transfer to the new monster. It only stays with the monster that it was originally made with. So even after you detach it, I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's still, because it doesn't say as long as this is a material, it still keeps that effect, but the only monster that gets that effect is the monster that it was originally summoned with. And then the last card in the extra deck is Blast. I know some of y'all are going to be like, why am I not running Felgrand? Why am I not running certain cards? Because their effects is not generic enough, and they're not names, so their effects don't come up as much. The only non-names I like is literally Infinity and Nova, because Nova gets me to Infinity. You can argue that Hope Harbinger isn't a name, but it has Galaxy in the name, so it's technically still a name. So like I can equip Orbital to it, if some of y'all didn't know that. So yeah, it's really nice. But I mean, I'm not denying Felgrand's a good card, but it's just not my flavor. I don't like it I don't like it enough to try to make room for it, for that, if that makes sense. Because we like making Cypher, even if you just want to break the board, just use Cypher to take their DPE and then overlay Cypher EX on it or whatever, and then it gets really busted from that part. But that's it for the main and extra. I will show you the side. Let's see here. Started out, we got 3 Tachyon. This might bump down to 2 because, like I said, I want to cut situational cards. The only reason this card is still at 3 in my side is because it's busted and completely just says no to chain link. So if you're playing against Sword Soul and stuff like that, it gets really nice. But it is at 3, but I would potentially drop it to 2. By the way, this side deck is, like, my opinion, the most generic side deck. Like overall, like the stuff that's being played right now, you can adjust it to your liking for locals, if that makes sense. But right here is like basically, I just want to show y'all the most generic for this format. 2 D barrier, because going first with transmigration plus D barrier is really busted. This covers a lot of ground with just itself. 2 Cosmic, because Cosmic is better than Twin. Yes, you can make the argument that I said you can discard, which means you can discard a Galaxy House Photon Dragon, but Eldritch is everywhere, and Mine is still a thing. So if they try to field barrier their Mine, you just Cosmic it and play around that, and then you don't have to worry about them setting another field spell on you, because field barrier prevents them from doing so. But on top of that, banishing Eldritch cards sets them a turn behind, which is really nice. If not worse than that, because it can be detrimental, because they can't banish to recycle. So it forces them, it takes away their grind game, and that's basically what you want to do. You want to take away their ability to grind. And then onto the monsters. We got 2 Droll, 2 Nib, 2 Jisakir, and 2 Dinko. Alright, I want you to take a look at this. Every single monster you see here is searchable through Small World. I can search every single one of these cards. So if I'm going second, I can just search any of these completely if I draw Small World. Or I can go combo if I'm going first, and then save 1 monster in hand that I didn't need. Use Small World to search any of these. I can search any of these with Small World. You search this, even you were like, Drip, how though this is a wind. Well, this is where Karibo comes in. Karibo's a fiend. You can search this by banishing Karibo from deck, because the only thing they share is a level 1. Fun fact. Search this because it's the only thing that I know in the deck is a light, that I can easily search this because it's a light. Lights, and lights. So every single one of these plays a role outside with Small World. This is just really good because the deck doesn't really, I mean, obviously with most combos you can really use your normal summon, but you can still combo without your normal summon, so you just normal summon this. And then against back row decks, if they don't have nothing activated yet, then you're just good. You don't have to worry about skill drain, don't have to worry about nothing. And this applies a lot of pressure. But granted, they can still out this if you're playing against Elish, but they are forced to have Golden Lord in hand to really out this card. And then this is the card that I was talking about that plays a role with Galaxy Expedition, because you can just search this, drop this on their head if they, because before I know I said I don't like situational cards, and that's the reason why I cut Expedition before. I mean, not Expedition, sorry, Hyper Galaxy, I apologize. Cut Hyper Galaxy before because it is very situational, but if you're not running Yugioh in the side, I would cut the Hyper Galaxy, and if I were to cut it for anything, it would be triple Tactic Talent. But since I am running the Yugioh, I will run the Hyper Galaxy because you can just drop this on your head if they see it, and if you don't have no other way to out it, and you hard draw like the Wizard, you just tribute the Wizard to search Hyper Galaxy, then like use Photon Sanctuary, tribute one of the tokens for Hyper Galaxy, and then tribute this to get rid of your opponent's field, and then special summon a Photon Dragon and just proceed to go off from there. It's really nasty. Then Nib, because it's a light, obviously, and combo, and a lot of decks don't respect this right now, like Prank Kids, the Phantom Knight deck. If you find a way to stop them before they even like use the Brave Engine, granted, yes, the Brave Engine, they get to Omni Negate before they really use the combo, but if you're playing against a pure version, or you've already hand trapped them or slowed them down in some form and they're just limping, you just put them out of their misery with Dwayne The Rock Johnson at that point. And then Droll, because it stops a lot and it's just Droll, so yeah. But yes, all of these monsters are searchable through Small World. Small World brings our deck together and is 10,000 times better than Union Carry because you don't have to commit resources to go get the Photon Orbital. So, yeah, Small World is nasty. I 10 out of 10, well, 20 out of 10 recommend you getting Small World for any deck for that matter, and definitely get it before it goes up any more than it already has. The card is busted and is mandatory in a lot of decks, most definitely Galaxy Eyes. I'll never take it out of this deck. But with that being said, guys, I hope you all enjoy the video. That is the video. Again, leave a like if you haven't already. It's much appreciated. Check out the description with I have a Discord down there, my PayPal, my merch. Go check it out and go buy some merch. Like I say in all my videos, if you would like to become part of the DDD fam and the Discord and all that stuff, we would love to have you. Just remember, I say it all the time, it's not for the soft-hearted or sensitive folk. It's a lot of locker room talk, and we're just basically a bunch of cool guys down there and joke on each other and stuff. So just to give you a heads up on that. But again, with that being said, guys, hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. Check out the merch and everything down in the description. But with that being said, you guys have a wonderful night, morning, evening, whenever you're watching this video. Hope you all are staying safe out there in the age of COVID. And it's your boy, Brendan. Drip out. Peace. Good dueling, my guys.